Introducing the Argolicus Mysteries. You'll find the books on Amazon and other digital publishers. These historical mysteries are set in early 6th century Italy, in the year 512. Today I'm sharing an eagle's eye view of a time after Rome and before the Middle Ages when Ostrogoths ruled Italy. Meet Argolicus. Argolicus is a learned man who turns detective at the bidding of friends and neighbors who know him as trustworthy, wise, and fair. His tools are the logic of Aristotle, the self-restraint of Epictetus, the theology of Arius, and the empirical insights of Marcus Aurelius, all sharpened to an edge by ferocious curiosity. He collects evidence, deciphers politics, and digs into the deepest secrets of the human heart. Argolicus leads the privileged and leisurely life of a Roman patrician under the Ostrogoth rule of King Theodoric. Raised in the tradition of privilege, he was schooled by a Greek tutor, Nicolaus, who is now his companion but still drills him in Greek and martial arts. Argolicus was a real person at the time of Theodoric's reign in Italy. He is mentioned 9 times in Cassiodorus Variae. Argolicus is retiring from his role in Rome as Praefectus Urbis, an important magisterial role in the Roman Senate. But in the year 512, the Roman Empire was divided and was not centered in Rome. The official palace was in Constantinople in what is now Turkey, far, far away from Italy. Constantinople sits on the tip of a peninsula at the eastern end of the Mediterranean Sea. It served as the center for religious thought, commerce, and political unity for the vast empire. The Roman emperor in Constantinople was Anastasius. He was called Dichorus two-pupiled because he had one blue eye and one brown eye. His long reign from 491 to 518 was filled with accomplishments in government, economy, and bureaucracy. When he died, he left the empire with full coffers to minimizing government corruption. He was a believer in the one incarnate nature of Christ, which put him in opposition to the official Trinitarian Church and at odds with the Patriarch of Constantinople and the Pope in Rome. Argolicus lived in Italy, which was a kind of sub-realm of the Roman Empire. The Ostrogoth Theodoric ruled as self-appointed king with the tacit agreement of the emperor, mainly because he had helped quiet rebellions in the Balkans. His kingdom included not only Italy, but a good portion of the Balkans and extended into what is now France. But the capital of this kingdom was in northern Italy high on the Adriatic Sea in Ravenna. Ravenna was a flourishing capital. A river ran through the center of the walled city, enabling easy transport of goods to sustain the thousands who worked at the palace and the city population that supported those thousands. Because he was a barbarian Goth, today there are many romanticized depictions of the Theodoric as a wild barbarian. What most people don't know is that he lived as an adopted child hostage of Anastasius from the age of 10 to 18 in Constantinople in the palace. There he was educated, learned about palace bureaucracy and intrigue, and most of all, how a ruler rules. In Italy, when Theodoric minted coins, he represented himself in the most Roman and imperial way possible. The palace he constructed was modeled on the palace in Constantinople. The palace infrastructure was modeled on the emperor's, and his court was modeled on the imperial court in Constantinople. Theodoric, dressed in rich silks, finely embroidered, wore red shoes, a status symbol reserved for the emperor, and his official portraiture was modeled on the Roman emperor. Here you can see his stylish hair, neatly trimmed court-style beard, and fancy robes, as well as the imperial bread and the scepter. But underneath the royal seat he also had the Ostrogoth ruler's symbol of a human skin to remind him that lives hung on his wisdom and judgment. The Ostrogoths called themselves the people, so their language was our language, their rules our rules. The label Ostrogoth was applied by later historians. Theodoric led his people across the Danube and into Italy. The Goth Odoacer had claimed Italy, and Theodoric was there to reclaim Italy for the Roman Empire. As he led his people further into Italy, they encountered many battles with Odoacer's army. At last, in a battle outside of Milan, Theodoric won the battle. Many members of Odoacer's army deserted to follow Theodoric. Among them was a general named Tufa. He told Theodoric he could lead him and his people to Ravenna, where they could conquer Odoacer at last. As they marched, Tufa had set up an ambush. Many of Theodoric's best military men were captured, imprisoned, and later killed in Ravenna. The current king Odoacer promised safe transit, but ambushed the people in a canyon, killing men, women, and children. 2 years later, Theodoric rallied troops. A few of his men floated down the river at night and opened the gates to the city to let in Theodoric and his army. They took Ravenna. Theodoric promised a truce and invited Odoacer and his men to a banquet. At the banquet, Theodoric personally slew Odoacer in revenge for the betrayal. Despite the revengeful beginning of his reign, Theodoric was known for his wise ruling throughout the remainder of his life. He called for all people to live in relative harmony, guided by civitas, imparting shared responsibility, a common purpose, and sense of community. He immediately began building programs to restore the country after the ravages of war. These, too, continued through his reign. Through his system of governance and economic growth, Italy and the kingdom enjoyed prosperity. He set the tone and demanded religious tolerance throughout the kingdom, not just for various Christian sects, but for Jews as well. Triwila was a military general in charge of all military activities and Theodoric's right-hand man. Cassiodorus, at a young age as a teenager, impressed the king with his speech and gradually moved up the palatial system. Cassiodorus spent his career trying to bridge the 6th century cultural divides between East and West, Greek culture and Latin, Roman and Goth, and between an Orthodox people and their Arian ruler. Long after the time of the stories, he became what we would call prime minister. These men propped up the king as he began showing signs of dementia or Alzheimer's in his later years. Theodoric set up a hierarchy within the palace system to serve both the Goths, the people, and the Roman-Italian governance. Throughout the kingdom, 2 systems of law prevailed, one for the Italians and one for the people. Argolicus, in his role as high magistrate in Rome, oversaw the Roman law. During his reign, 3 pressures were constant throughout his Theodoric's 36 years as ruler. Not only were there religious conflicts between the Pope in Rome and the Patriarch in Constantinople, the people's Arian faith was considered a heresy by the established church. Italians, especially in the south, where Argolicus retires, resented the outsider rule and wanted to return Italy to Roman rule. In Constantinople, the desire to control Italy and oust the heretics grew until the Emperor Justinian began pushing for reclamation soon after Theodoric died in 526. More about Justinian in a minute. In this high-flying eagle's view of history, we can look at the major religious and therefore political divisions in Italy at the time of the stories. Religion was politics, and numerous riots, including rioting monks, resulted from these 3 divisions. The Emperor Anastasius became even more of a dedicated monophysite as he aged. In the person of Jesus Christ, there was only one divine nature rather than 2 natures, divine and human. The people and Theodoric were Arians who believed that Jesus Christ is the Son of God who was begotten by God the Father at a point in time, and is distinct from the Father, therefore subordinate to the Father, not divine but a created being. The Trinitarians of the traditional church believed that God is triune, that he has revealed himself to be 3 co-equal and co-eternal persons, Father, Son, and Spirit. There were many divisions and subdivisions, plus Eastern Constantinople, Western Rome, Middle Eastern, and African interpretations. Passions ran high. Think of soccer riots and you'll get the idea. Long after Theodoric's death and the conquering of his heirs by Justinian, the emperor endeavored to erase all history of the people and Arianism in Italy. He removed visible references to Theodoric and his court and destroyed many documents. An example is a mosaic in the king's chapel in Ravenna. The mosaic is believed to have shown the king and his courtiers, all erased and replaced with curtains. Several hands in acclamation remain on the pillars. That's it. The Argolicus Mysteries take place in southern Italy, far from Rome, Ravenna, and Constantinople. The south was rich in agricultural products and supplied most of the rest of Italy with consumables. wheat for the king's bread, horses for transport, olive oil for cooking and other uses, fish oil fermented for months to supply the seasoning called garum. Think of Asian fish sauce, olives, much fresh produce including fruit, all carried by ship to the north. Argolicus is far from poor. His father was a wealthy patrician and so is he. His estate was large and part of the productive south. Argolicus' father was a traditional patrician. When Argolicus was about 5, his father bought a Greek slave to become his tutor. When Nicolaus arrived, he was in his mid-teens and well-educated. Slaves like Nicolaus often stayed with their master for the rest of their lives. As a tutor, he imparted a classical Greek education which included Greek, mathematics, and philosophy, as well as athletics and basic fighting skills. They can practice these skills on premises, but King Theodoric had banned all Romans Italians from carrying arms. I hope you enjoyed this brief introduction to the background of the Argolicus Mysteries. Now read the books: The Roman Heir, The Used Virgin, The Peach Widow, The Vellum Scribe, The Grain Merchant. Enjoy the mysteries where politics and murder collide. Immerse yourself in late Roman Italy in the Argolicus Mysteries.